It's the comparison you guys have asked me to make for probably 8 years now. Grand Power and Beretta PX4. Now we've got a PX4 GSD, so it's kind of a slightly souped up model of the PX4, a Mark 12 Grand Power and a Mark 23 Grand Power, and I'm going to do my best to show you guys and relate to you similarities and differences I find. If you're wondering what the heck this is all about, that's because all three of these use a rotating barrel action. Grand Power and Beretta are the only two of the bigger manufacturers that I know of using a rotating barrel, which helps, in my experience, dramatically reduce recoil and make for a smoother shooting gun. I'll give you a little more coming up soon. Let's try to compare these coming up next on. All right, so what is the fuss all about? These all use rotating barrels, as I said in the intro, but the system is slightly different. These two are of similar age, as in the Grand Power Mark 12, which came out in the early 2000s, well, not the Mark 12, but the Grand Power action that is in the Mark 12 started in the early 2000s, as did the Beretta PX4 Storm. Last year, or I guess now 2 years ago, Grand Power in the Mark 23 changed the rotating action a little bit. It's manufactured differently, largely done so that they can increase scale, because the system used on the Mark 12 was very machine time intensive. Anybody who's been involved in manufacturing or trying to have products understands that when you have a bottleneck in the production line, it hurts. So the Mark 12 and the same age, but most similar type. It's not exactly the same. Both the PX4 and the Mark 23s use a sort of cam and cam groove system. If you could think about like the way an AK bolt works, the Mark 12s used a highly polished curvature on the barrel matched with the roller bearing inside. How can we compare these? Well, unfortunately, I have a massive experience bias with the Grand Powers. About 8 years, 28 models reviewed, run them through multiple classes, Thunder Ranch, front sight, you name it. The PX4, I only have about a month of hands-on time and not that many rounds with. So I want to declare in advance that I have an experience bias. My hand is more familiar with, my trigger finger, all of that with the Grand Power system than I am with the Beretta system. Sorry about that, but it took Beretta this long to get us one. What is a fair way to compare these? I thought I would do, since I've never shot all three of these side by side, 5 rounds through each to kind of warm up and see if I have any immediate commentary. Then I want to try a 10-round speed dump with the camera cropped in on the gun so you can watch the recoil and see the action type. Might even blend in some digitally slowed down footage of that to see if we can see any differences. Keep in mind that's also where traction and friction is going to make a difference. That's going to disadvantage the Mark 12, maybe give an advantage to the PX4 or the Mark 23. I know these look the same, but the traction is different between them. And then lastly, try from a buzzer some hammered pairs, and that way we can see on paper if there's a difference in the distance between shots and see if there's any significant difference in time. That again, I have way more time on these triggers than I do on this trigger, so that might be a difference. Also, this is a decocker model, so I'll be starting first shot double action. That could make a difference. We'll see. I'm curious how you guys envision this comparison going, but we'll get into what I'm thinking and feeling and see where it goes from there. Remember all these. We're back about 21 yards. I actually counted this time from an A-zone piece of steel, thanks to Thor Targets. And it's time for me to refamiliarize myself with these platforms. The PX4 I shot a couple weeks ago. The Grand Powers I haven't shot in a while. I'm going to start off with the Mark 12. This is the early 2000s rotating barrel setup. These were produced all the way until 2022, so chances are you can still find one. 5 rounds. Let's get a feel for it. It's such a defined trigger, very easy to do. I was feeling some recoil, feeling some slam. I'm using MagTech 115 grain, which isn't exactly the hottest stuff out there, but it's also not the softest. For me, a big part of this is the ergonomics. The way that the toe kicks forward and the magazine traps my hand perfectly onto the gun. The older Mark 12s don't have as much traction on them anywhere, so that could be part of it. Now, 5 rounds through the PX4 Storm GSD. This is also a slightly shorter barrel than the K100 Grand Powers. I'll decock, since that's the way this gun is meant to be. To me, it felt like a little more muzzle lift, but it might have also been the speed of the things. This action type is more akin to the, yes, other folks are shooting, it's a public range. This action type is more akin to the Mark 23. So let's see how it compares with the Mark 23 Grand Power. Also a touch more muzzle lift. Interesting, since this action type is closer to the Beretta than the Mark 12. Man, I really can't feel a difference. Nothing jumping out at me. They're all smoother than a Browning action. That's a tough one to do. I guess what we'll have to do now is 10 rounds at speed with the camera cropped in on the gun, and you guys can tell me if you see something. Grand Power Mark 12 speed dump. Final time 280. Splits of 0.2, 0.2, 0.2, 0.2, 0.17. PX4 Storm GSD speed dump. Final time of 237. Splits of 0.2, 0.22, 0.21, 0.2, 0.2, 0.2. So, Grand Power Mark 23 speed dump. Couple interruptions there. Final time 241. Splits of 1.8, 1.8, 1.6, 3.3 was my pause, 2.2, 1.8, 2.0. So, what did you guys see there? Now, I included total time and the splits just to add some numbers to it. But of course, total time is going to be a little bit different on the double action PX4, and the splits are going to be a little shorter on a trigger that I have more time with. That's an end user thing. There's also, of course, the ergonomics and how well your hand fits the gun or doesn't fit the gun. That'll make these results a little bit different for you than they were for me. But I'm curious with those close in bits, what you guys saw as far as gun movement, if there was a difference in muzzle lift, things like that. It's really tough to find a difference between these. They feel really similar. The only other bit that I could think of that, again, really is going to come down to shooter bias and experience bias would be trying some hammered pairs under time. So that's what we'll hit next. Now for something tedious that might give us some data. I'm trying to be as fair as possible. I'm going to do some ready up hammered pairs. My thought with that is, cool baby eagle complaining about the noise in the background. My thought is, while there's going to be some slight bias in, no, I can point that pretty easily. All right, good. An experience pointing as far as time. I'm going to run the timer to give myself some stress, and maybe we get a data point. I expect to be quicker on the guns I'm more familiar with, but I want to add that stress. And then we're going to look at where these hammered pairs land, what their distance is on the torso. Sorry about the background noise, guys. It's public range. Just be happy other people are shooting. So I've got 6 rounds loaded for each of the guns so that I can do 3 sets. And then our visual data point is going to be the impact of all 6 rounds to see what kind of steadiness we have. So that's 3 hammered pairs from low ready. Starting off with the Mark 12 Grand Power. totally botched that one. That was terrible. Split was 0.37. There we go. Split of 0.17 was a little bit closer. I think part of the problem is I've got the target camera right in front of me and I don't like that. And a split of 0.61. Not the greatest. I think I'm going to move this target camera. Since Mark 12 is out of production anyways, I'm not going to redo these. It was just kind of a data point. Let me reset. With the Mark 12 having helped us figure out the situation and move the camera a little bit, we've reset. I'm a little warmed up to this setup. Now time for the PX4 GSD. First shot from double action, because that's how this gun is set up. Ah. 0.2 split, and not sure which shot was low. Not a great one. This is not the kind of thing that most YouTubers would show on YouTube, but I'm trying to do this scientifically. Round 2. Huh, interesting similar performance. Typical double action, single action air, 0.2 splits, which is kind of my norm. Let's go for number 3. And a repeat, 0.17 on the splits. Those all hit pretty much the same spots, showing great consistency. Total time 137 on that. I got to re-remember the double action. That's maybe a training issue, but this was of course better because I'm a little more warmed up. I don't know if I'm really feeling a performance difference or not. That Mark 12 was, like I said, a warm-up. I realized the camera was too close to me, all that kind of stuff. Let me reset. We'll do the Mark 23 Grand Power, and maybe that will give us something definitive. Now for the Mark 23 Grand Power. And I am using the safeties on these. 129 and a split of 0.18. Closest yet. 118 and a split of 1.6. .126 and a split of 0.16. So fastest and tightest yet. Quick, well, maybe not. I thought our bay neighbors were reloading and that we had a moment that I could actually talk. But what did we see there? Well, this was a single run each time. The Mark 23 Grand Power I did the best with. But is that because it was the third gun that I shot? Is that because I've got a lot of time with Grand Powers and the Mark 23 has enhanced traction over the Mark 12? So you take what I spent 6 or 7 years learning on these and then you make the traction better on the Mark 23, and of course you're going to have improved shooting. Tough to say. I tried to do a comparison video for you guys because so many people have asked for it, but you need to keep in mind things like experiential bias, personal bias, order of things shot, stuff like that. To really find an answer to all this, we would need multiple shooters to spend most of a day going back and forth, and then averaging out all that stuff, at which point I really don't think you'd find a clear winner unless someone had some experiential bias. I bring this up because when you watch YouTube reviews or hear someone's story or read a review and anything like that, experiential bias is going to play a big role, as is the order of things were shot in. We saw this when I did the Glock Multiverse video and compared 8 different Glock builds through the same drill. The one with the heaviest, worst trigger ended up having the fastest time. I think that's because that's when I hit my peak at running that drill. So it's really not something that you can easily put science to and fairly judge. Probably the most valuable part of this video would be those intro shots. I feel a little more muzzle rise with the Mark 23 and PX4 systems than I did with the Mark 12 system. But again, there's so many variables in that. Even the ammo being used. The range ammo today was MagTech 115 grain, just basic stuff. Had we gone with hotter ammo or softer ammo, the results might have been different there too. Those of you that have been wanting something definitive, the ergonomics of the Grand Power fits my hand better, and again, since I have more time with it, it's a more natural feel for me than the PX4. That said, as you guys saw in the PX4 review, even though I didn't apply the Talon grips that came with this PX4 GSD, and the sides are very slick, for me and for I think most educated shooters, okay, I cut out a whole bunch of shooting there. The traction on the front strap and back strap is where it really matters, and that's where the PX4 does a great job. So, could you go right or wrong with one or the other? Maybe, maybe not. I think it's really going to come down to a matter of personal preference and what's most similar to what you have the most experience with, or how much time you do spend with that platform you pick up. I hope this satisfied the people wanting a comparison of them. They are unique. All three of them, in my opinion, are better than a standard Browning action as far as recoil control. Is one better than another overall? I don't have an answer for you there, guys. Between the three that I have here, the Mark 23 Grand Power is red dot ready. So if you're vision impaired or a newer shooter and need a red dot, that is a good option for you. Barrel length is a little bit longer on the Grand Powers than it is on the PX4. That will give you a wee bit of extra energy, a slightly different slide velocity, but not hugely. The biggest place that will make a difference is in carry and whether or not you're going to carry it. The PX4 has higher capacity than the Grand Powers by a couple rounds, if that's important where you live or for your intended application. Take a look at the full reviews of these things and make a decision for yourself, but I unfortunately cannot give you a clear winner other than the fact that I kicked butt with the Mark 23. But again, I can't say that's clearly because of the gun. Thanks for watching. Sorry I don't have a solid answer for you guys. And we'll see you in the next video.
To our Patreon supporters. GBGuns, and I do 2-level. Andrew P. Joseph T. Randy A.A.L.G. Peter A. Tom. Moses S. Fast Steady. Tyler 215. Brian P. Scott King. Derek S. Jr. Donald H. Thanks for the tip, Lever. David P. Credos, the Godslayer. Andrew B. Lee A.H. Christopher J.J.S. Foreign Phones 3. Jeff O. Michael W. David G. O.K.Y. Tuba. Robert B. Ohio Cruffler. Stephen Briscoe County Jr. Rich R. Red Sky Wahar. Ed Z. Fierce of Cease. Uncle Munzie. David F. Alan B. Laura P. Andrew C. Tata Joni. Keeping things on this level. Gary B. Lafes. Danielle D. Ed Z. Jake J. Brad M. George H. Othniel M. Cody W. Marcus. Such Hode Lewis R. Eddie P. Logan G. Brian K. RBMD 2022A. Theo B. Ron Z. Gort My NC. Tech No Con. Half empty. CJ Ronald LW. Russ P. Marvin T. GPC 1980.